Well, let's talk about a good show.
Yeah, let's talk about the good show. It's the Penguin.
Yeah, dude.
Which I wouldn't have thought that this would be the good show this year.
Yeah, in fact, when I heard that it was airing, I was like, "Oh no!" I felt like great dread, where I was like, "Oh, I bet it will be long. I bet it will." And because it also it kind of reminds me of like, well, they did Gotham, right? And that basically was starring the Penguin in many ways. It always feels like we're going to do like a show about some movie side character. It just doesn't feel like a recipe for success. And yet, this may be like my favorite show I've watched certainly since X-Men '97. And I like this considerably more than I like X-Men '97.
Yeah.
I love this show. I can't wait for the next episode.
Yeah. I don't know. I was in a bad mood when I was watching the first one. And I think it's because I just watched Wanda and she got tagged along with like a little teen. And then
Agatha,
he gets tagged along with a little teen. And I was like, oh, I don't want this. But then, Frankie, the light of my life, Sophia Falcone came along. And I was like, all right, I think I can watch this show.
Well, you're an Italian man. Now, do you like watching like Italian family stuff? Does that speak to you on any kind of heritage level?
You know, obviously, seeing an Irishman wear Italian face is strange.
Yeah,
but when my culture is not a costume. But
Colin,
no, it's great. Well, yeah, definitely emotions can run hot in the family, but no.
I definitely mean more the Falcones actually than Oz in this case, because they're that feels like Goodfellas, or you feel like Marissa Tomei is going to show up or something. Let's explain what happens in the show. So the protagonist of the show is the Penguin, Oswald Cobb. His last name is not Cobblepot in this version. I suspect it's because Cobblepot is kind of Anglo, and they want him to be specifically Italian, and Cobb could be Italian. I think maybe.
Yeah, it could be like an Ellis Island shortening. Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense to call an Italian guy Cobblepot. It just makes no sense. And they really do seem to want him to be an Italian mobster that exists outside of the established families, works for the families, works with the families.
Look, James Gandolfini's dead, so they had to recreate him with an Irishman.
Yeah.
With makeup.
Well, you remember in The Batman, which is where he debuted, Colin Farrell as the Penguin. People are like, wow, he really disappears in the makeup. Like, it looks nothing like him. That's kind of fascinating. And he had a memorable kind of Robert De Niro-esque performance in that movie. There's specifically a scene where he's cornered by Gordon and Batman. And I think we impersonated it at the time, where he's like, hey, what are you talking about? What do you want with me? Yeah, he's doing the De Niro thing. I'm seeing less of that in the performance this time. I'm seeing a more realized version of this character. I think he understands the character better. I mean, there's more information now. So there's of course, a power vacuum in Gotham as of the death of Carmine Falcone, who was played by John Turturro. So he's dead, and the successor is going to be his, I don't know, maybe like 30-year-old son, Alberto.
He's like a drug addict, and he's kind of a loose cannon, kind of crazy. So it opens up with the Penguin trying to like rob him, basically, and he comes in, and he's like, "Oh, I wasn't robbing you. I was just getting you the things that for you. I was getting them for you." Because
Penguin basically operates like a satellite drug distribution network, and he manages the Iceberg Lounge, which is owned by the family, and so he's a heavy for the families. The other family being the Maronis, Salvatore, who's in jail. So the Falcones are really in charge of Gotham, and Salvatore is in jail, and these families would war, and there's a bit of that in the Batman. So Alberto, who is, if people haven't seen the Batman in a while, which I hadn't, you remember that the drug in that world was eye drops. They call them drops,
yes.
And he's getting high off of his drops. And he starts laying into Penguin, calling him a little pussy boy and all this stuff. It is very rated R, by the way, this whole show.
Yeah, which is like, because the Batman was PG-13, so
yeah,
right?
Kind of a hard PG-13, but it was PG-13, yeah.
But so yeah, it was shocking at first. I'm like, oh, okay, so we are going full Sopranos.
Yeah, full blown Sopranos. Yeah, lots and lots of F words. And yeah, he sets off Oz, who shoots him dead. The successor to the crime family. The two of them are alone, and he shoots him dead. And he's got a problem on his hands. He's got a dead body. So some kids, teens are stealing his hubcaps off of his like gaudy purple vehicle. He fires at them, and one of them doesn't get away. A young kid named Vic. And he basically implicates Vic in the rest of his evening, where he's like, "You're going to help me get rid of the head of the crime family." So Vic is scared shitless. He's got a natural stutter. And then the next morning, Oz is ready to kill him. Of course, he brings him out to a junkyard. He's like, "Hey, it looks like we got a nice sunset. Let's do this." And the kid begs him to. He says, "I can be useful. I have ambition." They had a little discussion about. He's like, "You kids don't have any ambition." So we started to learn about Oz a little bit, where it's like this guy. I think if I had to describe the character as I know him from this show, he has a very serious loser complex. He takes care of his mother, who kind of both builds him up and puts him down. It's that she sort of plays both sides. There's an uncertainty and a humiliation, a kind of an undignified embarrassment to a lot of the way Oz expresses himself. But he never really he never hesitates. He's always like full speed. Like he has every intention to ascend as quickly and as high as he can during this power vacuum. Like, and if he dies along the way, like, so be it. You know, he's in high gear. So it's kind of thrilling because on the one hand, we're dealing with like a really vulnerable person in a lot of ways. And on the other hand, we're dealing with a very menacing person, somebody with not a lot to lose.
Yeah. And the landscape is shifting, and he's always shifting his plans as that landscape is shifting. So it's really fun to see how he problem solves these very chaotic and dangerous situations.
And he knows these people very well. I think he's probably worked for these families for like a couple decades. You know, like he's had his place for a while. So with Alberto dead, of course, everybody's looking for the killer. He's kind of narrowly escaping judgment on that. When Alberto's sister, Sophia, young Italian woman who's recently out of Arkham Asylum she went on some kind of a killing spree. Guess what? The only person that gave her the time of day in prison was her brother. And so she was very much looking forward to Alberto being in charge of things. And now he's dead. And she ain't stupid. She's very smart, and she's very savvy, and she's very unpredictable, and she's a bit psychotic. And so she suspects Oz early on. He spoilers. He figures, and this is all in the first episode, he figures a way out of it by implicating the Maronis who are in jail still in a very clever twist and kind of masterful. In fact, there's kind of a moment where it looks like he's fucking dead. They're
torturing him naked in a chair, and the makeup on his naked body, he looks like a fat man. Like
it just looks like a natural fat guy.
Good. That's good makeup.
Yeah, it was really, really good. He just squeezes out of the predicament, and he starts to have this relieved laugh, this smile. And I was laughing with him. I was like, holy shit, you did it. You just I don't like it when the characters in a show are stupid, like in Rings of Power, where nobody's catching on to anything. And in this show, everybody's pretty fucking smart. And so if somebody gets away with a lie, it's got to be a very, very, very good lie.
It's just like he got himself out of that one jam sort of convincingly. Especially because, Clancy Brown was Salvatore. He gives him the ring in the prison, and he was flaunting the ring in prison and bragging that, he's, he took him out. So it's there's a lot of fun power dynamics. So
I don't remember which scene it was, but it was a tense scene, and they allowed the diegetic sounds of trains, like distant trains, to be very loud in the mix. And it was really interfering with even your ability to hear everything everybody's saying. Everybody had to shout over the trains. And I was like, this is really working. This is, that stressful sound of trains is actually really ratcheting the tension in this scene. Yeah. And there's a lot of smart stuff like that going on.
Yeah, that's what he was talking to Vic, I think. And and he kind of spares Vic because he has the stutter. He sees a lot of himself in there and that. And so that's it separates itself from the Agatha teen situation, which kind of traumatized me, where it's I don't even know why is he around? Why is she keeping him around? Yeah. It doesn't make sense. Well, in this one, it's well, of course he's keeping him around because this is the way this world works. This is the way how he sympathizes with him. He thinks he can use him. He can be a muscle for him.
Yeah, it's kind of two sides. On the one hand, I think he genuinely would like to mentor somebody. And on the other hand, he will throw this kid right under the bus if he has to. You know, he needs somebody to take the fall. There's a pretty effective scene in the second episode where Vic fucks something up big time. And it causes Oz to have to do a whole lot more manipulation to get out of his situation. And you know, he puts it as like, that's a lot of work for me to do.
And he like puts them next to the bodies that resulted in that episode. Yeah. And he's like, this could be you. You know?
Lay down in those graves. That's where you should be right now. And it's like there's dead, cold bodies and he's making them lay down with them. It's pretty effective stuff. Now, on the other hand, you know, and much like Joker, which I have not seen Joker 2 yet, I hear it's trash. Much like Joker 1, let's say. It definitely does not rely on the fact that this is Gotham and Batman. In fact, that almost feels silly at a certain point. Or like, I could just be watching a mob show right now, and this would be pretty effective. I would say the writing is very good. Like, this is good stuff. This is the rhythm, the pacing, the way that they step up the stakes, the dialogue is quite clever. The characters are complex. The mom is very interesting. Like all good projects, the performances are so, like, everybody is so well cast. Everybody is performing their character so well. It really makes the writing look way better than it even is, because it's really a performance-driven show, I would say. Like, and Colin Farrell is definitely the premier performance. He's a great reason to watch, but Sophia is like right up there with him, I'd say. And a lot of, did you notice like even the extras were super good in this thing? Like they're not like just bumbling extras. Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone's bringing it. It's well directed. It does make me wish that we would get the Batman TV series, like a similar situation. Maybe like it focuses on one big bad for the overall arc of the season.
I was thinking like, it's kind of incredible that his makeup, you know, people rightly mention that he kind of vanishes in the makeup, but this makeup it basically makes him into like a Dick Tracy villain. Like, looks like a fat kind of just, ugly guy, and he's acting through it. He is creating a character through that makeup, man. It's pretty, hats off to Colin.
Very physical, because he's got like the waddle, because they have like leg braces on him.
Did they ever explain why he has his limp? Was that in the movie or something?
No, I don't think so.
He just has his limp.
He just has it. I don't think they have to.
No, I think it's cool. I think it's it's part of his insecurity. It's part of what makes him weak, which actually fuels his strength, kind of. I was thinking the other day about how TV shows, the nature of a show is that you're going to be spending time with it. And if you're going to be spending time with a story, the only way you can do it in a way that like really captures people's imaginations is if the whole thing is focused around a character or a couple of characters. Like when you find that, I hate to always use Breaking Bad, I apologize, but like once they figured out like Aaron Paul, Bryan Cranston, like, okay, well, now we have a show. Like these guys have a chemistry. Like we can focus this whole thing. And it's true of sitcoms, it's true of
House was built around that performance and that character.
Yeah.
We used to do this.
Yeah. That's what sold the TV show, is whether or not you would want to spend time with those characters. And yeah, James Gandolfini and The Sopranos. And I mean, and if somebody didn't respond to a character, like normally the show died quickly and they didn't renew it or they canceled it right away. But then I think of something like The Acolyte and I'm like, what are even the characters? Or I think of Rings of Power and I'm like, what are even the characters? Like, who am I spending time with in this thing?
Well, even, like House of the Dragon, like you want to see more of Matt Smith in that character. Like you want to spend time with that character.
Matt Smith pretty much sells that show, I'd say. It really is. I really think shows live in. I mean, writing is extremely important because the story has to go somewhere. But more than that, I think shows live and die by their characters. And they've got Sophia, man. So like the risk with this show would be that Colin's all they've got, and maybe that would run dry. But I think what's captivating about her is she's intelligent, but she's also crazy. But that wouldn't be enough for me. It's a little deeper. I think she cares deeply about family, and she has some resentment towards members of the family, and she very much mourns the loss of her brother.
Yeah.
So that makes her a really interesting puzzle piece in this whole thing. And that's the thing about the Italians is when you're that into your family, like that's your strength and that's your weakness. You know, that's your Achilles heel, but it's also what creates power.
So is Gabagool.
Gabagool.
That is why all those crime movies are good. It's complicated, you know.
I've always loved Penguin. I don't know why. I love the Burgess Meredith Penguin. I love Danny DeVito. I love that. I loved the animated series one. I have a collection of Penguin toys because I've just always loved them. And I always felt like, well, maybe the Nolan movies made me feel this way, that at some point the franchise or the fan base became like embarrassed by Penguin. Like Penguin never really matched up to Joker. He certainly isn't one of the more physically domineering. He's not Clayface or something. He's not Killer Croc. He's not Ra's al Ghul. It's like, what's the appeal of this guy? Well, it's like, he's a gangster, I guess, unless he's the Tim Burton one, and then he's like a sewer dwelling freak.
He has like that ride-on toy that like controls the Batmobile or whatever.
He's in a giant baby duck for some reason. I don't know. I like him, and I think he always belongs in Batman. And so figuring out Penguin. There's the scene at the end of the first episode where they're on a corner near the trains, and I'm like, did they shoot this in Philadelphia? Because this looks like Mickey's gym from Rocky so much.
Yeah.
But it turns out I think they shot it in New York or something.
Oh, okay.
And did you also, if I could critique one thing, did you notice that the car chases, like they would sometimes cut to like weird CG cars?
No.
There's a couple of moments that were a little bit like, oh, wow, you couldn't go out there and shoot those car chases, I guess.
You had to save on budget.
This makes a strong case that Max is your best bet for high quality entertainment.
Yeah, for the prestige. I mean, I think they even like brought back some of the HBO branding because they're like, "Ooh, we diluted this too much with the Max branding."
Yeah, I think they did.
And because people did associate quality with HBO, and.
Well, what do you got? You got Last of Us. You've got Penguin. You've got Righteous Gemstones. This is looking pretty good.
Baby.
Compared to Disney Plus, Jesus.
It's dumping ground.
Subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.